What's going on?
You gotta see this video I found online.
What's it called?
This video makes you gay.
Oh, what is it?
It makes you gay. Here, watch it.
Family, 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 family.
This is the part where it gets really gay.
Family, 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 family.
What the hell was that?
So, I recently saw Morius, a Sony-made comic book movie, and it was pretty bad. Complete cinema at its finest, honestly. I thought it was on the same level as the Venom movies, which kinda teeter on it's so bad it's good. But then it reminded me of something. I picked up a copy of Bloodshot many moons ago, another Sony and Columbia Pictures comic book movie. Why did I do that? For two reasons. One, I heard it was bad and wanted to see how bad it was. And two, it was only $5, so why not? I remember watching the trailer back in late 2019 and thinking, this could be really bad or a surprise hit. Not long after, I heard many claiming that this is one of the worst superhero movies in recent memory. And part of me really wanted to see how bad this movie really was. And after watching it, I can honestly say I'm a bit disappointed. This movie isn't as bad as I hoped it was going to be, but don't get me wrong, it's still not that good, and I'll get more into that. But I was really hoping for a movie that hits that it's so bad it's good territory. And I thought I was going to get that with this movie, but sadly, I didn't. Honestly, I would have settled for a movie that isn't good in terms of story and characters, but if the action is top notch, creative and fun, then that could be enough to get some enjoyment out of it. Kinda like Punisher Warzone. But what's frustrating the most is that all the ingredients are there to have a movie that's really cheesy, goofy, and action-packed and fun, but it doesn't quite hit those notes. Before I get into why, let me go over the basic plot of the movie and explain how it doesn't hit that so bad it's good territory. I'm going to be giving a general synopsis for the whole movie, so spoilers ahead if you actually care. Let's be honest, no one cares.
Diesel time.
So Vin Diesel plays Ray Garrison. After completing the mission and going home to his wife, they are captured and he's interrogated by a bad guy who wants to know the source of the information he received from his previous mission. He tells him that he doesn't know and the bad guy smokes him and his wife.
Double kill.
Ray then wakes up in a lab led by Dr. Harding, played by Guy Pearce, who develops cybernetic enhancements to help disabled soldiers. And Ray is his latest experiment. He is alive because nanites are now inside of his body, and they give him super strength, rapid healing, as well as the power to access satellites and the internet via his brain. But he's lost his memory. He quickly gets it back and goes after the guy who killed him and his wife, and then he just does that. But then, plot twist.
What a twist!
It turns out Dr. Harding is actually a bad guy who has been altering Ray's memories to kill off his old partners, who all know how to make nanotechnology. He wanted them out the way so there's no competition when he goes to sell the research. And he's going to use Ray one more time to take out his final partner. But things don't go as planned when Ray is informed of the betrayal by Wiggins, the creator of the code that the nanotechnology is made with. He also found out that his wife isn't actually dead. And now with the help of KT and Wiggins, he's going after Dr. Harding for using him and taking away his old life. And he does that. He literally takes down the whole company. Then he, KT, and Wiggins is right off into the sunset.
Are you serious? Right into the sunset? Are we sure this ain't all a simulation?
And that's the general plot synopsis for the whole movie. I know I'm leaving out a few things like the two other enhanced soldiers, but that's basically the entire plot of the movie. And the pieces are there to have an over-the-top, fun, cheesy action movie. It has a unique concept of the super soldier with nanites that make him invincible. It has a pretty interesting setup and twist on the whole revenge type storyline. But what's lacking are these three things: energy, creativity, and fun. Let's start with energy. The whole movie just feels kind of lifeless. And I think the biggest reason is because of the music. It's boring as hell. Outside of the song Psycho Killer, which was used in a very funny way in the movie, the actual score is dull as hell, and as a result the movie is lacking any oomph, especially in the action sequences. And on top of that, Vin Diesel kind of seems bored. In fact, most of the characters do. There's only a few that actually seem like they're trying, and there's some entertaining moments here and there. I honestly think that Guy Pearce as Dr. Harding and Wiggins are like the best characters, because it seems like they're doing the best with what they have. Everyone else just seems pretty bored, which in turn makes me feel pretty bored. With the lack of energy in the performances and the music, as well as the action, but I'll get to that in a minute, it leads to a very lackluster experience. Next is creativity. So you have a superhero who is super strong, with nanites throughout his body that rapidly heal him, as well as give him access to satellites and the internet. He's basically unkillable. Cool, there's a lot you can do with that. And they do take advantage of it a bit by having Vin Diesel just get shot and blown up a lot. There is a fair bit of action, but the issue is, it comes across as pretty boring. There are a few decent moments here and there, but the issue with the action is that his powers are really used outside of him just tanking hits. And when he fights other enhanced soldiers, the movie doesn't show off much of what they can do either. Outside of the final battle, which was pretty decent between Ray and Dalton. But with everyone else, it's pretty standard stuff. It's actually pretty amazing how boring it gets watching Vin Diesel get shot over and over again. What doesn't help is that it's edited like shit. Way too many cuts between shots, making it hard to see and follow the action. Coupled that with the lifeless music, you end up with some pretty dull action scenes. And I think the story had potential to be very interesting. When it's revealed that the entire intro sequence is a simulation, and that they've been changing to manipulate him to taking out other people, I actually thought that was pretty clever, and it explained why the intro felt pretty generic. And Harding even points out how the slaughterhouse scene with Psycho Killer playing in the background was cliche as hell. I was thinking the movie would open up more and become more self-aware, but it doesn't. doesn't, outside of a few lines delivered by Wiggins, who is the best character. But after that reveal, it doesn't get more creative than that, and they don't really experiment in the action sequences or with Rey's powers. The ingredients are there to have something very creative and unique, but they don't really do that much with it, except for a few cool moments here and there. And finally, fun. There are a handful of times where the movie shines, and believe it or not, it's when the movie is being really silly and kinda goofy. Like the interactions with Hardy and Eric are pretty funny, and everything with Wiggins is a blast. Seems like the only character who's having a good time and enjoying himself. But when you take the low energy feel of the movie, with its boring characters and dull music, and mix that with its uncreative action sequences, you're left with a movie that really isn't that fun to watch with a few decent moments. But everything is there to have a fun, action-packed movie. But I think it fails to really take advantage of all of it, leading to it lacking in these three components. And because of this, it just comes across as boring. So I got curious and started watching the behind the scenes featurette, and I heard them mention that this was the director's first movie. David S.F. Wilson. He is primarily a visual effects artist who typically works in the video game realm, with a credit on Age of Ultron, but on those games projects, he was mainly a cinematic director or supervisor, basically meaning that he works on the CG trailers and cutscenes that you see in video games. And Bloodshot was his very first live action project, as well as his very first full-length movie. And before this, he directed an animated short for a TV series I never heard of. So to go from doing primarily video game cinematics to a superhero blockbuster was a big leap. And the nice thing I can say is, it's not the worst movie out there, and not terrible for a first-time movie director. Something else I noticed was the lack of budget. This movie cost around $45 million to make, and that's actually surprisingly low for a comic book blockbuster, especially with everything they're trying to pull off here, which would probably explain why the effects don't look that polished. For comparison, something like Joker cost around $55 million to make, or a better comparison, more recent Sony comic book movies like Morius cost around $80 million to make, and the two Venom movies over $100 million each. Unfortunately, these days, if you want to make a blockbuster superhero movie, it's going to cost a lot to really show off what they can do, especially when a lot of this stuff has to be computer generated. Or maybe the budget isn't that big of an issue if the project was put into more experienced hands, instead of basically a first-time director. Although I think it doesn't help when your lead doesn't give a shit. I like Vin Diesel. He's one of those action movie guys that are really fun to watch. But here, he doesn't seem interested at all. And for how dumb this Fast and Furious movies are, you can clearly tell that he's enjoying himself way more and actually trying. He's very much passionate and invested in those movies. In Bloodshot, it feels like he's just here to get a paycheck, which is kind of funny because he said that his son really wanted him to take the role and be Bloodshot, so that's why he did it. Hopefully his son enjoyed watching it more than Vin Diesel enjoyed making it. Although I will say this, one thing it does very well is the pacing. The story and plot reveals itself pretty fast and doesn't drag at all. The hour and 45 minutes kind of flies by. So in conclusion, I was really hoping for a movie similar to Venom, a superhero movie that feels like a throwback to the early and mid-2000s comic book movies, but pretty aware of its silliness and is kind of having fun with it. Hell, I would have taken something similar to Morbius, a more serious movie with some goofy and weird moments, but is generally entertaining throughout. Bloodshot is too dull to be goofy and fun, but not bad enough to be outright terrible, or even it's so bad it's good. It's just plain boring, and it lacks energy, creativity, and fun. The movie was a flop at the box office, but it's worth noting that this was released right at the beginning of the pandemic in 2020, and it was released on streaming services only 2 weeks later. So that could be a factor for the low box office pool, but let's be honest, who was even looking forward to this movie anyway? So overall, I thought it was just almost so bad that it's good. But anyway, that's gonna do it for the video, guys. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, go and drop a like on it. And leave a comment, let me know what you think of Bloodshot. Did you enjoy it? Did you think it's a fun movie? Leave a comment, let me know. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.
Diesel time, bitches.
It'll take a while for them to stop thinking of me as a girl, but they will. I just have to show them that I'm the same Arisia they knew, only better.
I have to show them that I'm not a child molester.